The Jaguars finally do have a general manager, James Gladstone. He, of course, joins head coach Liam Coen, both of which have ties to the Los Angeles Rams. And with that, let's go out to the City of Angels. JB Long is the play-by-play voice of the LA Rams, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. JB, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you for the invitation and even more connections between the Jags and the Los Angeles Rams. It used to just be limited to like Maurice Jones-Drew and I think Les Snead's starting roots there, but the tree grows ever thicker in very good ways. Looking forward to making that road trip to see the Jags in Jacksonville this year, too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, no doubt about it. And I want to talk to you about Liam Coen, but first and foremost, let's talk about the new general manager here in Jacksonville, James Gladstone. Boy, very impressive. Again, he's been here for all of 4 days. He's already at the combine. I mean, that's obviously a late start, but we're uber impressed with him already, JB. What can you tell Jaguar fans about James Gladstone?
Well, selfishly, I'm just dismayed at losing him. He's been a good friend, a really interesting conversationalist, someone that I've enjoyed, bouncing ideas off of during off-season programs and training camps and just gleaning little bits of knowledge, some that I can share and some that I'm unable to share, right? But that's kind of the privilege of being a part of the organization and working, tangentially with someone like James, who I've always just found really easy to be a fan of. And the Rams, as you well know, have this, this history now, this recent track record of being ready, willing, and able to promote people and give them opportunities, maybe before traditionally their age or their resume might say they're ready. But James, I think, was so instrumental and integral in the Rams' window of time here under Les and more recently Sean McVay, that I'm not surprised that organizations across the NFL are now trying to borrow from the Rams front office the way that they have for many years Sean McVay's coaching tree.
It's interesting. Every time that James Gladstone has taken the podium, either here in Jacksonville or up in Indianapolis, I mean, complimentary does not do it justice in talking about Les Snead and his wife, Kara. I mean, that relationship, JB, it seems that Gladstone had with the Sneads is pretty incredible.
Yeah, when I listen to him speak, it's hard not to see a lot of Les's influence and mannerisms and witticisms come through James. And he's a man unto himself. He's got a great young family. He's got a formative story of his own that stands apart from Les and Kara, of course. But we all have mentors and special people who have proved to be multiplying forces in our lives. And I think that relationship is certainly one. And I think it speaks highly of Les and, really the entire Rams structure, that they can be so promotional and happy for someone like James and really pursue those opportunities for their staff, knowing that it's ultimately what's best for the individual and eventually for the Rams ecosystem, even losing someone as talented and influential as James Gladstone.
JB Long is the play-by-play voice of the Los Angeles Rams. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. JB, again, you have a better understanding of James Gladstone than we certainly do. A lot of talk about the 34-year-old aspect. This is a lot to put on a 34-year-old's plate. Do you think James is up to the task?
Yeah, I mean, I think 34 in football years, given the time that he's put in, the time on task, and the teams that he's influenced, is actually pretty seasoned. I think this is the right opportunity for him at exactly the right time. I think you could have made the case that he was deserving of more even sooner. But I'm happy for him in the situation that he's landed in. And look, the empowerment that he had within the Rams organization, the way that he was able to orchestrate, everything from their scouting process to their draft boards to their college free agent process, he's well trained. And I don't just mean that because of his mentorship within Les Snead's organization, but because of the real way that he got his hands dirty and built two NFC championship teams. So yeah, age is just a number, as we all found out firsthand here with Sean McVay, who was hired at 30 as the youngest coach in the National Football League. And not to draw too many parallels, but I think there's ample reason to believe that someone like James deserves that chance before his 40th birthday.
JB, final James Gladstone thought, then I want to move on to Liam Coen. But we all saw the videos here in Jacksonville that I believe were on LARams.com regarding the draft last year and that meeting he held with all the scouts out there in LA. Unbelievably impressive. And you alluded to this earlier, but just for the Jaguar fans to reiterate, you think James Gladstone had a pretty significant impact in the Rams drafting processes over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I always looked at him, rightly or wrongly, as Les Snead's right-hand man, his kind of air traffic controller. Les is cut from very special, unique cloth, too. And I think to formulate the staff that he has around him took the right pieces to the puzzle to put together complementary skill sets. And I think James not only earned the trust of someone in Les's seat, but proved to be a really nice complement to him and allowed Les to build out his strengths and so many others within that front office, from the analytics department to the pro scouts, the college scouts on the road, to make it all work. Your audience is probably becoming familiar with the unorthodox things that the Rams did, up to and including not even going to the combine anymore, the way that they leaned into the Super Bowl and some other sources of data points on these college players. I don't think that's possible without someone who is both forward thinking and capable like James, and also can prove it with the results that the Rams earned through all of those processes. Their drafts, even with limited draft capital atop, the Thursday, Friday rounds, the way that they mined for veteran free agents, the way that they claimed players off waivers like Darius Williams along the way, all these subtle things that made the, excuse the expression, F them picks era of the Los Angeles Rams so productive.
Couple more for JB Long, the play-by-play voice of the Los Angeles Rams. James Gladstone comes to Jacksonville to join Liam Coen, who they knew, obviously, each other during their time in L.A. Two different stints, JB, for Liam Coen in Los Angeles. What are your memories of Coen out on the West Coast?
Yeah, I'll transition into Liam by just making one more parallel, and that is, I think Sean and Les are one of the oddest of odd couples, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. It's been a real pleasure to watch their partnership. I don't think that on paper they're necessarily the two people, personality types that you would think would pair well together to produce football results, and yet they always have. And I'm hopeful that the same can be true of the partnership that the Jags have just formulated throughout their front office structure and even down to their field level coaches. So really optimistic. Liam has always been a really pleasant person to be around. I remember being on the 2021 Rams playoff run with the stop in Tampa Bay, with us kind of all assuming that given the success the Rams had, that Kevin O'Connell would be soon an NFL head coach. And I believe Liam was at Kentucky at the time, but he was on the sideline for that game between the Rams and Tom Brady's Buccaneers, a trip that would eventually take the Rams to the Super Bowl and the Lombardi Trophy. And I think we were all just excited, for Liam to be back in the Rams ecosystem. Unfortunately, that 2022 year was a dark one for the Rams. It was a really difficult, challenging one for Sean McVay personally. And so even though that didn't pan out the way that we had all hoped, I think it speaks volumes about Liam that he was able to essentially pick right back up where he left off and find this next opportunity so quickly, so well, and eventually become the head coach that I think everyone in the organization envisioned him having the potential to be. And I'll just land on this. I also think it says a lot about how well esteemed he is in Sean McVay's mind, that even after, they separated again for that second time, that watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what Liam did with Baker Mayfield in that running game was still something that I know Sean kept careful tabs on because of how highly he thinks of Liam and just how many parallels there are between how they see the game of football.
We're always talking about the Sean McVay coaching tree, or certainly been talking about that here for the last 6 weeks, and we're hoping lightning strikes again, because you look at whether it's Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor, Kevin O'Connell, all the offensive minds off that McVay coaching tree have had unbelievable success, and we're hoping the same thing happens here with Liam Coen in Jacksonville. JB, in your opinion, why do people leave McVay's staff and have success as head coaches?
Well, I think probably the step in the process that gets overlooked is that he's such a good identifier of talent to begin with. Like, he hires the right people on the front end so that when they leave on the back end, these are already kind of the upper crust of the football minds that he targets. Now, I don't just mean that in terms of X's and O's scheme, though that's certainly a component. But I think Sean's superpower has been and continues to be his interpersonal communication skills, his ability to deliver candid critiques in a way that people find trustworthy. And so I think there's that through line, that commonality between the coaches that he hires and the success that they have after their brief or sometimes extended stint in Los Angeles, because they were already self-selected to be someone that Sean McVay is drawn to. And if Sean McVay is drawn to you, if he's willing to put his trust and confidence in you, I think that already speaks volumes about the caliber of coach that you already are or have the potential to be. And Liam is certainly a great example of that.
Final moments, JB Long, the play-by-play voice of the LA Rams. It's interesting, JB, you look at the coordinators that Liam Coen hired. Grant Udinski comes over from Minnesota, where he coached with Kevin O'Connell. Anthony Campanile comes over from Green Bay, where he coached with Matt LaFleur. So this new Jaguar regime, you add Shane Waldron into the mix as well. I mean, it has LA Rams ties all over the place. It's the ultimate form of flattery, right? To try to be somebody that you emulate. And look, it looks like the Jaguars have found someone in the Los Angeles Rams that they want to try to be like.
Yeah, I think that's all true. Familiarity can breed confidence, but I think it borders on the right side of avoiding kind of the group think. I don't think anyone in Liam's orbit walks into their new task in Jacksonville saying, because of where we come from, because of the language we speak in this world of football, that we're going to have the same success that the Packers, that the Rams, that the Cincinnati Bengals have had just because we've been a part of this cocktail, right? But I think what they're trying to do and the urgency with which they're trying to do it, when you bring in a new general manager and pair him with a coach here in deep February, basically on the eve of the combine, do you need that familiarity, that continuity, that shared language to skip ahead a few steps in the process? Potentially. And maybe that will help them, achieve the quick results that I think have characterized this coaching tree, right? It's not just the success, but the rapidity with which they've found that success, that urgency that I know fans in Jacksonville are really desperate to see.
JB, final question. A lot of Florida State fans listening right now. Boy, Jared Verse and Braden Fiske, what rookie seasons for those two young men.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, Jake and his team really played a leading role in that, right? It's an unorthodox thing to do, to take basically two players in the top 40 from the same defense. But that's how special that Florida State team was. And I think that's, peeling back a layer to the onion of their process, that they believe that those two players would bring out the best in each other because they've done enough homework to see how even in a limited tenure in Tallahassee, they competed with and brought out the best of each other in a very competitive environment, and hope that, Jared Verse would have been an NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year on his own in Los Angeles. But the way to almost clinch that or guarantee that he would have that opportunity is to bring in someone like Braden Fiske. So they've both been dynamic additions to the Rams, rebuild on the fly, if you will. And I think to go from having the greatest player in franchise history for a decade in Aaron Donald, and to send him off into retirement and get better year over year in the pass rush and on defense, I'm not sure what higher praise I could offer those two former Seminoles.
JB Long, the radio voice of the Los Angeles Rams. JB, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time. We always appreciate it, pal, and we'll do it again soon.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.